My name is Harper Elise Clean. I am 32 years old, and I live in a quiet apartment complex on the outskirts of the city, and up until last Tuesday, I thought I knew my place in my family. I thought I was the helper, the peacekeeper, the one who absorbed the pain to keep everyone else happy. But then came the dinner that changed my life forever. We were all sitting around my mother's heavy oak table. The smell of roast beef and rich gravy filled the room. It felt normal. It felt like family. Then my 10-year-old nephew Caleb leaned forward. He didn't smile. He didn't blink. He looked right into my eyes and spat a thick glob of saliva directly into the center of my mashed potatoes. The table went quiet for 1 second, just one. Then Caleb spoke, his voice loud and clear. "Dad says you deserve it." I waited for my mother to gasp. I waited for my sister to scold him. I waited for someone, anyone, to defend me. Instead, they laughed. My brother-in-law chuckled first, and then my mother covered her mouth to hide a cruel smile. The sound of their laughter didn't just hurt my feelings. It broke something deep inside me that I knew I could never fix again. But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? My name is Harper Elise Clean. I am 32 years old. I sat there looking at the mashed potatoes on my plate. The white mound was ruined. The spit sat right on top, a bubbly, gross insult. But what sat heavier in the room was the laughter. It echoed off the walls of my mother's dining room. It bounced off the china plates I had bought her for Christmas 3 years ago. I looked up slowly. My sister Jenna was wiping a tear of mirth from her eye. Her husband, Mark, Caleb's father, was shaking his head, grinning as if his son had just told a clever joke. And my mother, who I had spent my entire adult life trying to please, was cutting her meatloaf. She looked satisfied. She looked like a queen holding court, and I was the jester who had just slipped on a banana peel. "Oh, lighten up, Harper," Jenna said, seeing the look on my face. She waved her fork at me. "It's just a joke. Caleb is just being a boy. You're always so sensitive." "Sensitive," I repeated. The word tasted like ash in my mouth. "Yes, sensitive," Mark added. "You act like the world owes you an apology every time the wind blows." I looked at Caleb. He was 10 years old. He wasn't a toddler. He knew exactly what he had done. He was eating his peas, looking smug. He knew he was protected. He knew that in this house, Harper was the target. Harper was the one you could kick, and she would just apologize for bruising your foot. That spit wasn't an accident. It wasn't a random act of a bad kid. It was a symptom. It was the result of 32 years of training. My family had trained everyone, even the children, to believe that I didn't matter. I started to think back. My mind raced through the years, pulling up memories like files from a cabinet. I remembered when I was 16. I had saved money from babysitting to buy a prom dress. It was blue silk, secondhand but beautiful. 2 days before the dance, I found Jenna wearing it. She had spilled grape juice down the front. When I cried, Mom told me to stop being selfish. "Jenna needed to feel pretty," she had said. "You can just wear your cousin's old dress. It fits you fine." I wore the old dress. I didn't complain. I remembered when I was 22, I had just graduated college. I wanted to move to the city to start a career in graphic design. But Mom got sick. It wasn't anything specific, just a general weakness. She needed help around the house. She needed someone to drive her to appointments. Jenna was too busy with her new boyfriend. My brother Alex was finding himself in Europe, so I stayed. I stayed for 3 years. I cooked. I cleaned. I paid the bills with my freelance money. When Mom got better, she didn't thank me. She just asked when I was going to get a real job like Alex, who had finally come home and started working at a bank. I remembered last Christmas. I bought gifts for everyone. Expensive ones, a tablet for Caleb, a designer watch for Mark, a spa day voucher for Jenna, a new living room set for Mom. I spent thousands. When it was time to open my gifts, they handed me a small bag. Inside was a pair of socks and a candle that smelled like old vanilla. "We didn't know what you wanted," Jenna had shrugged. "You're hard to buy for." They didn't know what I wanted because they never asked. They never looked at me long enough to see me. And the money, God, the money. "Harper, the car broke down," Alex would call. "Can you spot me 500? I'm good for it." He never was. "Harper, Mom's heater died," Jenna would text. "She's freezing. You need to fix it. We're tight this month." I always fixed it. I looked around the table again. The laughter had died down, replaced by the clinking of silverware. They were eating. They had moved on. The moment where I was humiliated was over for them. It was just a Tuesday. My mother looked up and saw me staring, her face hardened. "Stop staring, Harper. It's rude. Eat your dinner." I made those potatoes specially. You made them? I asked softly. Mom paused. Well, I bought the potatoes, you mashed them, but it's my kitchen. That was it. That was the summary of my life. I did the work, they took the credit. And if I complained, I was rude. I looked at Mark. He was the one who told Caleb I deserved it. Deserved what? Deserved to be treated like garbage. Deserved to be the punching bag. Why? I asked. My voice was quiet, but it cut through the noise of chewing. Why what? Mark asked with a mouthful of meatloaf. Why did you tell him I deserved it? Mark rolled his eyes. He looked at Jenna. See. She can't let it go. Because you do, Jenna snapped. You walk around here with your little martyr face, acting like you're better than us because you have a savings account and no kids. You think you're perfect. It's annoying, Harper. Dad says you need to be taken down a peg. Dad. My father had died 10 years ago. Mark wasn't my dad. But he had taken that head of household role, the voice of authority that everyone listened to. I don't think I'm better than you, I said. I pay for your Netflix, Jenna. I paid for your dental surgery last year. That's what family does, she shouted. Her face turned red. You throw money at us to make us feel small. You do it to control us. I sat back. The air left my lungs. Is that what they thought, that my help was an insult? No, that was a lie they told themselves to feel better about using me. They didn't hate my money. They hated that they needed it, so they hated me to balance the scale. I looked at my mother. Mom, do you agree? Mom took a sip of her iced tea. She didn't look at me. She looked at the wall. You can be difficult, Harper. You have a very intense energy. It stresses everyone out. Mark is just trying to lighten the mood. Spitting in my food was lightening the mood. Using me as an ATM was what family does. I wasn't a daughter. I wasn't a sister. I wasn't an aunt. I was a resource. I was a utility, like the water or the electricity. You don't thank the electricity for turning on the lights. You just get mad when it goes out. And right then, sitting in that chair, watching the gravy congeal on my plate next to the spit, I realized something terrifying and freeing. I was alone. I had been alone for a long time, sitting in a room full of people who shared my DNA. The history wasn't just about the past. It was about the pattern, and the pattern was a circle. I give, they take, they hurt me, I forgive, I give again, round and round, until tonight. Tonight the circle broke. Not with a scream, but with a realization. I looked at Caleb. He was watching me, waiting to see if I would cry. He wanted the reaction. He wanted the drama. I didn't give it to him. I felt a coldness settle in my chest. It wasn't the coldness of sadness. It was the coldness of ice, hard, clear, solid. I was done being the scapegoat. I was done being the victim in their story. I took a deep breath. The smell of the roast beef suddenly made me nauseous. I knew I would never eat at this table again. The silence in the room stretched out. They were waiting for me to pick up my fork. They expected me to scrape the spit off, maybe make a self-deprecating joke, and eat the potatoes. That's what the old Harper would have done. The old Harper would have swallowed her pride to keep the peace. I pushed my chair back. The wooden legs scraped loudly against the hardwood floor. It was a harsh, screeching sound. Everyone jumped a little. I stood up. Where are you going? Mom asked. Her voice was sharp. We aren't finished. I didn't answer. I didn't look at her. I simply turned around and walked toward the hallway. Harper, Jenna called out. Don't be dramatic. Sit down. Let her go, Mark laughed. She's going to go cry in the bathroom. She'll be back in 5 minutes. I walked past the bathroom. I walked into the entryway where our shoes were piled by the door. My sneakers were buried under Caleb's muddy cleats and Jenna's boots. I didn't dig for them. I didn't care. I grabbed my purse from the hook. Harper, Mom's voice was closer now. She had stood up. There was a hint of worry in her tone, but not for me. She was worried about the scene. She was worried about losing control. Harper Elise, if you walk out that door, don't you dare think. I opened the front door. The evening air rushed in. It was cool and smelled of impending rain. I stepped out onto the porch. Harper, I closed the door behind me. I didn't slam it. I closed it firmly, hearing the latch click. That click sounded like the final period at the end of a long, terrible sentence. I walked down the steps. I was barefoot. My car was parked in the driveway, but the driveway was gravel. Sharp, gray stones. I stepped off the smooth concrete of the porch and onto the rocks. Pain shot up my feet. The stones dug into my heels, into the soft arches of my soles. It hurt. It really hurt, but I welcomed it. The physical pain was real. It was grounding. It was better than the numb, suffocating feeling inside the house. I walked steadily. I didn't run. I didn't limp. I let the gravel cut me. Left foot, right foot, pain, clarity. I reached my car. I fumbled for my keys, my hands shaking slightly, not from fear but from adrenaline. I unlocked the door and slid into the driver's seat. Inside the car, it was quiet. It was my space. I smelled my vanilla air freshener. It smelled clean. It smelled like freedom. I saw the front door of the house open. Mark was standing there, silhouetted by the hallway light. He threw his hands up in a gesture of frustration. He looked like an angry shadow. I started the engine. I put the car in reverse. I backed out without looking at him again. I drove. I didn't play music. I didn't call anyone. I just drove. My feet throbbed against the pedals. I could feel a wetness on my right sole. Maybe a small cut was bleeding. I didn't care. The drive to my apartment was 20 minutes. For those 20 minutes, my mind was a blank white room. I wasn't thinking about the past. I wasn't thinking about the future. I was just breathing. In, out, in, out. I pulled into my parking spot. I turned off the engine and sat there for a moment in the dark. I'm done, I whispered to the steering wheel. Saying it out loud made it real. I'm done. I got out of the car. The pavement of my apartment complex was smooth and cool. I walked up the 2 flights of stairs to my unit. When I walked inside my apartment, the silence greeted me like an old friend. It was tidy. My books were on the shelves. My plants were green and healthy. This was my sanctuary. This was the one place they hadn't ruined yet. I locked the door. I put the chain on. I went to the kitchen and filled the kettle. I turned the stove on. The blue flame flickered to life. I watched the water start to bubble. The ritual of making tea was something I did when I was stressed. It was precise. It was controllable. Boil water, pour, steep, drink. I made a cup of chamomile. I held the warm mug in my hands, letting the heat seep into my cold fingers. Then I walked to my small dining table. I sat down and opened my laptop. I wasn't going to cry. Crying was for people who had hoped that things could change. I had no hope left for them. I only had a need for truth. Jenna had said something at the table. You throw money at us to control us. And Mom had said, I made those potatoes. Even though I bought them, I needed to see the truth. I needed to see exactly what family cost. I logged into my bank account. The screen loaded. The numbers appeared. I started scrolling. I opened a spreadsheet. I labeled it the cost of love. I started typing. November 3rd, $150. Grocery store run for Mom. November 5th, $85. Jenna's phone bill family plan. November 10th, $200. Loan to Alex via Venmo. November 12th, $45. Caleb's soccer registration. I went back a month, then 2, then 6. The numbers blurred, but the total at the bottom of the column kept growing. It was hundreds. It was thousands. But then I saw something that made me stop. I saw a transaction I didn't recognize. Evergreen Utilities, $340. I clicked on it. It was for an address I didn't live at. It was my mother's address. I frowned. I had agreed to pay her electric bill last winter when she was sick. Had I never stopped? I dug deeper. I checked my credit card statements. I checked my credit report. As I clicked through the pages, the tea beside me went cold. The pain in my feet faded into the background. A horror much worse than spit on a plate began to unfold on the screen. It wasn't just help. It wasn't just generosity. I clicked on the mortgage details for my mother's house. I saw my name. My heart stopped. I scrolled down. I saw auto payments for things I didn't even use. I saw subscriptions. I saw their life being funded by my paycheck, bite by bite, dollar by dollar. The spit was nothing. The insults were nothing. This was theft. The glow of the laptop screen was the only light in the room. I felt sick. Not the kind of sick you feel from a flu, but a deep, churning nausea in my gut. I felt like I had been punched. I had always known I helped them. I knew I was generous, but I thought I was giving gifts. I thought I was offering a safety net. I was wrong. I was the foundation. I was the walls. I was the roof. I started writing it all down. The list grew longer, and with every line, my anger turned into a cold, hard rage. 1. The mortgage. My mother had refinanced her house 3 years ago. She told me she needed a cosigner just for the paperwork, for the credit score bump, she said. She promised she would make all the payments. I looked at the bank history. For the last 8 months, the entire mortgage payment, $1,400 a month, had been coming out of a joint account I shared with her. An account I put money into for emergencies. She wasn't paying it. I was. She was living in her house for free. 2. Jenna's dentist bill. I found a charge for $2,200 from 6 months ago. Jenna needed a root canal and a crown. She had called me crying, saying she was in pain. I told her to use my card for the deposit. She had charged the whole thing. And then, 2 weeks later, another $300 for whitening. I looked at my own smile in the reflection of the screen. I hadn't been to the dentist in a year because I wanted to save money. 3. Alex's temporary loan. My brother Alex had asked for a loan to start a small business selling vintage sneakers. He asked for $5,000. I gave it to him. I saw a recurring transfer of $200 going to him every month labeled business support. I didn't set that up. I checked the authorization. It was done from my mother's IP address. She had access to my old checking account. She was funneling money to him from me. 4. The subscriptions. It was almost comical if it wasn't so tragic. Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, Spotify Family Plan, Amazon Prime. Even a monthly subscription box for gourmet dog treats. Mark and Jenna had a dog. I didn't have a dog. They were feeding their dog premium treats on my dime while I shopped at discount grocery stores. I did the math. I added it all up. In the last year alone, my family had taken over $28,000 from me. That was a down payment on a house. That was a new car. That was a trip to Europe. That was my freedom. They weren't just disrespectful. They were parasites. They treated me like I was nothing while they ate my food, lived in my house, watched my movies, and spent my money. And they laughed at me. They laughed because they thought I was stupid. They thought I would never check. They thought Harper would just keep working, keep smiling, keep signing the checks because Harper wanted to be loved. I closed my eyes. Tears finally leaked out. Not tears of sadness, but tears of humiliation. I had bought their love, and they had taken the money and thrown the receipt in my face. My phone buzzed on the table. The sound was loud in the quiet apartment. I looked at the screen. It was 9:12 p.m., a text from Mom. I picked it up. My hand wasn't shaking anymore. Mom, you made a huge scene tonight. Mark is very upset. Jenna is crying. You ruined dinner. You need to grow up. Don't contact us again until you are ready to apologize to Caleb and the rest of the family. I stared at the words. Apologize to Caleb. Apologize to the boy who spit in my food. Don't contact us again. She was using the silence as a weapon. She thought she was punishing me. She thought I would panic. She thought I would text back begging for forgiveness, terrified of being cut off. She didn't know I had the spreadsheet open. She didn't know the bank was closed, but the online portal was open 24/7. I typed a reply. I didn't hesitate. I didn't reread it. Me, understood. Mortgage autopay ends tomorrow. I hit send. I watched the little bubble appear that showed it was delivered. Then I turned my phone off. I didn't want to see the response. I knew what it would be. Panic, anger, the realization that the golden goose had just flown the coop. But I wasn't done. The text was just the warning shot. Now I had to drop the bomb. I looked at the clock. It was late. I couldn't go to the bank until morning. But there was a lot I could do from here. I needed help. I couldn't do this alone. I needed someone who knew numbers. Someone who didn't care about my mother's crocodile tears. I thought of my cousin Danielle. Danielle was my father's brother's daughter. My mother hated her. She called Danielle cold and calculating because Danielle was a forensic accountant who didn't put up with nonsense. I turned my phone back on for 1 second. I found Danielle's number. I dialed. She picked up on the second ring. Harper, she asked. Her voice was surprised. We hadn't spoken in months. Is everything okay? No, I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. It sounded dead. Danielle, can you come over? I need your help. I need to audit my life. There was a pause. Then Danielle said 3 words that made me want to cry with relief. I'm on my way. Danielle arrived in 20 minutes. She was wearing sweatpants and a hoodie, hair tied up in a messy bun, but she was carrying her heavy work laptop and a portable scanner. She didn't hug me. She took one look at my face, pale, dry-eyed, grim, and walked straight to the kitchen table. Coffee, she said. Make a pot, I'll start the spreadsheet. We worked through the night. It was a war room. Danielle was a machine. When I showed her the mortgage payments, she didn't gasp. She just narrowed her eyes and cracked her knuckles. Okay, she said. This is financial abuse. It's messy, but we can clean it. We started the full severing. Step 1, the accounts. We opened a new bank account at a completely different bank, an online bank that my mother had never heard of. I transferred every cent of my personal savings into it. Leave the joint account with $5, Danielle advised. So they don't get an insufficient funds fee immediately. Let them see it's empty first. Step 2, the subscriptions. This was the most satisfying part. I logged into Netflix. Change password. Then sign out of all devices. I logged into Amazon. Remove saved cards. Cancel Prime. I logged into the utility company. Stop service request. I put the date for tomorrow. If Mom wanted electricity, she could put it in her own name. The dog treat box. Cancelled. Disney Plus. Cancelled. With every click, I felt a physical weight lifting off my shoulders. Click, gone, click, free. Step 3, the big stuff. The mortgage was harder. You can't just take your name off the deed tonight, Danielle explained, typing furiously. But we can stop the payments. You are a cosigner, not the primary payer. The bank will go after her first. And we can draft a letter demanding she refinance to remove you, or you force a sale. Force a sale? I asked. It's the nuclear option, Danielle said, looking at me over her glasses. But Harper, they stole 28 grand from you. Nuclear is on the table. Stop the payments, I said. Let's start there. We canceled the auto pay. Step 4, fraud alert. The transfers to Alex, Danielle said, pointing to the screen. You didn't authorize these. No. Mom did. That's fraud, Danielle said flatly. Identity theft. She used your credentials. I hesitated. I don't want to send her to jail, Danielle sighed. We won't file a police report yet, but we will flag the account with the bank so no more transfers can happen. And we will change every password you have. Email, social media, banking, medical records, everything. By 4 o'clock a.m., we were done. My digital life was a fortress. The bridges were burned. The drawbridge was up. Danielle sat back and rubbed her eyes. She looked at the final tally on the screen. Harper, she said softly. Look at this. She pointed to a column showing my income versus my expenses now that the family tax was removed. You're actually rich, she said. You could have bought your own house 2 years ago. I stared at the number. It was true. I wasn't struggling, I was being drained. They treated you like staff, Danielle whispered. She reached across the table and covered my hand with hers. Her hand was warm. Actually, no, staff gets paid. They treated you like a slave. I looked at my hand under hers. I let them. Maybe, Danielle said, but you were trained to let them. They groomed you to be this way since you were a kid. But tonight you broke the training. I took a deep breath. For the first time in years, the air went all the way to the bottom of my lungs. My chest didn't feel tight. The knot in my stomach was gone. I can breathe, I said. I can actually breathe. Good, Danielle said. She closed her laptop with a snap. Because tomorrow, the storm hits. They're going to wake up and find out the ATM is out of order. And they are going to come for you. Let them come, I said. I looked at my bare feet. The cuts from the gravel had stopped bleeding. They were just small, red marks now, scars in the making. I'm not the same person I was at dinner, I said. Danielle smiled. It was a fierce, sharp smile. No, you're Harper Elise Clean, and you just resigned. We sat there in the quiet kitchen as the sun began to rise. The sky outside turned a soft, pale pink. It was a new day. And for the first time in my life, every dollar I made, every breath I took, and every choice I made belonged to me. I checked my phone. I had turned it on silent, but the screen lit up. Jenna 5 missed calls, Mom 3 missed calls, Mark 1 missed call, and a text from Mom, sent at 3:30 am. Mom, the Netflix isn't working. And I got an email about the electricity. Harper, what are you doing? I didn't answer. I put the phone face down. The system was shut down. The next morning, the silence broke. It didn't break with a knock at the door. It broke with a vibration. My phone, which I had left face down on the kitchen counter, started buzzing. It didn't stop. It buzzed and buzzed, moving across the smooth surface like an angry insect. I was sitting on my balcony with a cup of coffee. The sun was shining. The world looked normal. But inside that little black device, my family was declaring war. I picked up the phone. I didn't unlock it yet. I just looked at the notifications stacking up on the lock screen. Family group chat, 47 new messages. I took a deep breath. Danielle had gone home to sleep, so I was alone. I had to face this alone. I unlocked the phone and opened the chat. It was an explosion of text. Mom, 7 a.m. The power company says there is a disconnect request. Is this a joke? Call me immediately. Jenna, 7:15 a.m. We can't log into Netflix. Caleb is crying because he can't watch his show before school. Thanks a lot, Harper. You're punishing a child. Mark, 7:30 a.m. You need to stop this tantrum. We get it. You're mad about the potatoes, but cutting off the utilities. That's illegal. I'm going to call a lawyer. Mom, 8 a.m. I went to the bank. My card was declined. Harper, where is the money? That was our account. Alex, 8:10 a.m. Hey, my transfer didn't go through. I have vendors to pay. Don't screw me over just because you're having a bad week. I read the messages twice. Our account. Mom called it our account, but she never put $1 into it. It was only ours when she was spending. When the bill came, it was mine. Mark threatened a lawyer. That made me laugh out loud. A short, dry laugh. A lawyer would look at the bank statements and tell Mark he was lucky I wasn't pressing charges for theft. I didn't reply. Danielle had told me, silence is your loudest weapon. Every time you reply, you give them fuel, starve the fire. So I starved it. By noon, the tone changed. They switched from anger to guilt. This was their favorite tool. They knew exactly where to press to make me hurt. Mom, 12:30 p.m. I'm sitting here in the dark. My chest hurts. I think it's the stress. If I have a heart attack, it will be on your conscience. Jenna, 1 p.m. Mom is crying. She says she doesn't know why you hate us. We're family, Harper. Family forgives. You're being so cold. It's scary. I felt a twinge in my stomach. Mom is crying. That image always worked on me before. I pictured her small and frail, wiping her eyes. But then I remembered the dinner. I remembered her covering her mouth to hide a smile when Caleb spit on me. She wasn't frail then. She was cruel. I put the phone down and went for a walk. I needed to be away from the screen. When I came back 2 hours later, things had escalated. My Facebook notifications were blowing up. Jenna had posted. I opened the app. There was a picture of Caleb looking sad, holding a stuffed bear. The caption read, "Please pray for our family. We are going through a really hard time. Financial cruelty is real. Some people turn their backs on their own blood over petty arguments. We are struggling to keep the lights on and manage Caleb's medical needs. Heartbroken." The comments were flooding in. "Oh my God, who would do that? Praying for you, Jenna. Is this about your sister?" I always knew she was stuck up. My face burned. They were painting me as a monster publicly. They didn't say my name, but everyone knew. Then I saw the link. GoFundMe. Help Caleb get through a tough year. Jenna had created a fundraiser. I clicked the link. The description made my blood run cold. Hi everyone. As many of you know, Caleb has been having some health issues. We were counting on family support for his upcoming surgery, but that support was suddenly pulled away out of spite. We are now left with medical bills and household expenses we can't cover. Any little bit helps us protect our son from this toxicity. They were using Caleb. They were using a 10-year-old boy as a shield and a weapon, and the lie, support was pulled away out of spite. I wasn't spiteful. I was empty. There is a difference. I sat on my couch staring at the screen. People were donating, $20, $50, friends of the family, people who had eaten at my table, people who I had bought birthday gifts for. They were giving money to Jenna and Mark because they thought I was the villain. I wanted to scream. I wanted to post the bank statements. I wanted to show the world the spreadsheet Danielle and I made. Look at the $28,000. Look at the dog treats. Look at the spit on the potatoes. But I didn't. If I fought them in the mud, I would get dirty, and they loved the mud. I closed the laptop. I ordered takeout, Thai food, spicy, just the way I liked it. No one else in my family liked spicy food, so we never ate it. Tonight, I ate it alone. It tasted like independence. At 9 p.m., a direct message popped up on my phone. It wasn't in the group chat. It was a private message from Jenna. Jenna, Harper, please forget the post, forget the fight. Caleb is actually sick, it's not a lie. He needs his tonsils out and he has that ear issue. The surgery is scheduled for Thursday. The hospital wants the copay up front. It's $1,200. We don't have it. Please help him. I stared at the message. My first instinct was, liar. My second instinct was, what if it's true? He was a brat. He spit on me, but he was 10. He was a child. He was innocent in a way, molded by his terrible parents. I didn't reply to Jenna. Instead, I did something the old Harper never would have done. I verified. I didn't sleep well that night. The image of Caleb, even the smirking Caleb, stuck in my mind. If a child needs surgery, you don't say no, but if you give money to a liar, you are a fool. The next morning, Wednesday, I called the local hospital. Billing department, please, I said. My voice was steady. This is patient accounts, the woman on the line said. She sounded tired. Hi, my name is Harper Clean. My nephew, Caleb Miller, is scheduled for surgery tomorrow. I'm calling to check on the payment status. One moment, she typed. I could hear the keys clicking. Caleb Miller, yes, tonsillectomy and ear tube insertion. Thursday at 8 a.m. It was real. Okay, I said. And the financial responsibility. There is an outstanding copay of $1,200 due before admission, she said. Jenna wasn't lying about the surgery. She was actually telling the truth. But here was the catch. If I sent Jenna $1,200, would it go to the hospital? Or would she pay $200 and keep the rest for stress relief? Or would she buy Mark a new gaming console? I couldn't trust them. I could only trust the transaction. I would like to pay it, I said. Oh, that's wonderful, the woman said. Are you the mother? No, I said. I'm the aunt. But I have a condition. I want to pay you directly. I don't want the receipts sent to the parents. I want the confirmation sent to me. We can do that, she said. I pulled out my credit card. The same card I had blocked from Amazon. The same card that used to buy groceries for my mother's empty fridge. I read the numbers. Authorized, the woman said. The balance is 0. He's cleared for surgery. Thank you, I said. You're a good aunt, she added before hanging up. I hung up the phone. I didn't feel like a good aunt. I felt like a tired woman who had just negotiated a hostage release. I sat there for a moment. I needed to tell Jenna, but I didn't want to talk to her. I sent a text. I called the hospital. The $1,200 cape is paid in full. Do not ask me for anything else. Good luck with the surgery. I put the phone down. I expected a thank you. I expected relief. But the silence stretched on for hours. Then, around 4 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was a voicemail from Mom. I stared at the notification. A voicemail meant she wanted to say something she couldn't text. Or maybe she wanted to yell without me hanging up. I pressed play. I put the phone to my ear. Harper. Her voice sounded different. It wasn't the sharp, commanding voice from the dinner table. It wasn't the whiny, victim voice from the texts. It sounded old. It sounded small. Harper, Jenna told me. She told me you paid the hospital directly. She paused. I could hear her breathing. We thought. Well, Mark said you were doing all this to hurt us. He said you wanted us to suffer, but you paid for the boy. Another pause, long this time. I realized something today. If you wanted to hurt us, you would have let the surgery get canceled. You didn't, you just stopped letting us use you, and I guess there is a difference. She cleared her throat. I heard what you did, and I may have been wrong about a lot of things. The voicemail ended. She didn't say I'm sorry. The words I'm sorry were too big for her throat. They would choke her. But I may have been wrong was the closest she had ever come in 32 years. I listened to the message again, and a third time. It wasn't a victory, it wasn't a parade, but it was a crack in the wall. For years I had tried to buy their love with yes. Yes, I'll pay. Yes, I'll drive. Yes, I'll fix it. But it turned out the only thing that earned their respect was no. By saying no, I forced them to see me. I wasn't an appliance anymore. I was a person who could make choices. I was a person who could be dangerous, but chose to be kind. I didn't call her back. I didn't text Jenna. I let the action speak for itself. That night, I slept for 10 hours. I didn't dream about the gravel or the spit. I dreamed about standing in a wide, open field, holding a key in my hand. A week passed. The surgery went well. I knew this not because they told me, but because Danielle checked Jenna's Facebook. I had blocked her, but Danielle was my spy. Jenna posted a photo of Caleb eating ice cream in a hospital bed with the caption, "So brave, thankful for the help we received." She didn't tag me, she didn't name me, but she didn't trash me either. The GoFundMe was taken down. The silence between my house and my mother's house was thick, but it wasn't angry anymore. It was heavy with realization. Then, on a Tuesday evening, exactly 2 weeks after the spit dinner, I came home from work to find a box on my doorstep. It was a cardboard box, taped shut with masking tape. My name, Harper, was written on the top in my mother's looping handwriting. My heart hammered against my ribs. Was this it? Were they returning my stuff? Was this a box of hate mail? I carried it inside. I placed it on the kitchen table, right where Danielle and I had conducted the financial audit. I cut the tape. I opened the flaps. It smelled like dust and old perfume, my mother's signature scent, white diamonds. Inside, there were no bills. There were no angry notes. There were photo albums, 3 of them, the old, sticky kind with the plastic sheets that peel back. I pulled the first one out. It was labeled The Girls, 1995-2000. I opened it. There was me, age 5, with missing front teeth. There was Jenna, age 7, hugging me from behind. There was a picture of us at the beach, buried in sand up to our necks, laughing. Mom was in the corner of the frame, smiling, young and tan. I turned the pages. I had forgotten. I had spent so much time focusing on the pain of the last 10 years, the money, the servitude, the dismissal, that I had forgotten there was a time before the rot set in. There were photos of me winning a spelling bee. Mom looked proud. There were photos of Dad holding me on his shoulders. I realized why she sent this. It wasn't a guilt trip. Well, maybe it was a little bit. But mostly, it was proof. She was reminding me, and maybe reminding herself, that I wasn't just the resource. I was Harper. I was the little girl with the missing teeth. I was the daughter she used to know before she decided to start using me. At the bottom of the box, there was a single piece of lined notebook paper. I unfolded it. Harper, I found these in the attic. I spent all day looking at them. I forgot how much you used to laugh. You haven't laughed in this house in a long time. You didn't deserve how we treated you at dinner. We were wrong. Mark was wrong. I was wrong to let it happen. I'm making roast chicken on Sunday. No potluck. No money needed, just come eat. Or don't, I understand if you don't. Mom, I stared at the note. We were wrong. Those were the words, the magic words, but words are cheap, paper is cheap. Did I go? If I went, would I fall back into the trap? Would I sit down and suddenly be asked to pay for the chicken? I called Danielle. She invited me to dinner, I said. Trap? Danielle asked. Maybe, but she sent photos. And she admitted she was wrong, in writing. Go, Danielle said. But drive your own car. Park on the street, not in the driveway so you can't get blocked in. And bring nothing, no purse, no wallet, just your keys in your pocket. No wallet. If you don't have it, you can't use it, Danielle said. Test them? Sunday came, I drove to the house. I parked on the street. I wore jeans and a t-shirt, nothing fancy. I felt like I was walking into a courtroom, not a home. I knocked. Mom opened the door. She looked tired. She looked older than she had 2 weeks ago. Her hair wasn't perfectly sprayed. She was wearing an apron. Harper, she said. Hi, Mom. She stepped back. Come in. The house was quiet. Mark and Jenna's car wasn't in the driveway. Where is everyone? I asked, standing in the foyer. I kept my hand on the doorknob. I told them not to come, Mom said. I blinked. What? I told Jenna and Mark to stay home. I told them this was just for us. Mark. Mark is still angry. He says you humiliated him. I told him that he humiliated himself. My jaw dropped slightly. Mom defending me against Mark. The world really had turned upside down. So it's just us. Just us, she said, and roast chicken. We sat at the dining table, the same table where the spit had happened. But the ghost of that night was gone, replaced by a quiet, awkward tension. We ate. The chicken was dry. The vegetables were overcooked. It was perfect because it was real. She didn't ask for money. She didn't talk about her mortgage, which I knew she was now scrambling to pay. She didn't talk about her health. She talked about the weather. She talked about the neighbors. Then she put her fork down. Are you happy, Harper? She asked. It was such a simple question. I looked at her. I thought about my clean apartment. I thought about my bank account that was finally growing. I thought about the silence in my head that wasn't filled with their demands. Yes, I said. I am. She looked at me for a long time. She was searching for a lie, but she didn't find one. She nodded quietly. Okay, that's good. No guilt trip. No, how can you be happy when your mother is struggling? No spin. She just accepted it. She realized she had lost control of me, and in losing control, she might have just found her daughter again. But we were strangers now. We had to start over. The repair of a relationship is not like fixing a car. You don't just replace the part and drive away. It's like healing a broken bone. It takes time, and sometimes it aches when it rains. A few days after the dinner with Mom, I got a text from Jenna. Jenna, can I come by, just for 5 minutes? I have something for you. I hesitated. Jenna was the volatile one. Mark was the bully, Mom was the manipulator, but Jenna was the emotional tornado. Me, 5 minutes, I'm home now. She arrived 10 minutes later. When I opened the door, I was shocked. Jenna usually wore heavy makeup, contouring, fake lashes, bright lipstick. She wore expensive clothes that I usually paid for. Today she was wearing yoga pants and a sweatshirt. Her face was bare. She looked pale. She looked like a sister, not a show pony. Hi, she said. She didn't look me in the eye. Hi, she held out an envelope. This is from Caleb. I took it. I opened it right there on the porch. It was a drawing on lined paper. It was a picture of a stick figure boy giving a thumbs up. Written in messy, 10-year-old handwriting, it said, Aunt Harper, sorry I was mean. Mom said I was a jerk. Thank you for fixing my ears and throat. I can hear better now. P.S. The hospital jello was bad. I smiled. A real smile. It was clumsy, but it was honest. Mom said I was a jerk. That meant Jenna had actually disciplined him. He wanted to come, Jenna said, staring at her shoes. But I told him he has to earn it. He has to write you an apology letter every week for a month before he sees you again. That's good parenting, I said. Jenna let out a short, shaky laugh. Yeah, well, Mark and I are fighting. A lot. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. He's mad about the money, Jenna said. He's mad we have to pay our own bills now. He's not the guy I thought he was when things get hard. She looked up at me then. Her eyes were red. Harper, I didn't realize how much you carried us. I mean, I knew, but I didn't know, until the bills started bouncing last week, until the lights flickered. She reached into her pocket. I sold my purse, she said. The Louis Vuitton one you bought me for my 30th birthday. She handed me a check. It was for $800. It's not much, she whispered. I know we owe you thousands, but this is a start. It's for the utilities. For the last few months. I looked at the check. Jenna, my selfish, entitled sister, had sold a status symbol to pay a debt. I could have torn it up. I could have said, keep it, you need it more. That's what the old Harper would have done. But Danielle's voice was in my head. If you don't let them pay, you rob them of their dignity. Let them be adults. I folded the check and put it in my pocket. Thank you, I said. I accept it. Jenna's shoulders dropped. She looked relieved. I'm sorry for all of it, she whispered. The spit, the jokes, the entitlement. We forgot you were a person. We just thought you were strong, invincible. I am strong, I said, but I'm not invincible. And I'm not a bank. I know, she said. I know that now. She turned to leave. She walked down the stairs to her car, an older sedan, not the SUV Mark usually drove. As she got in, the back window rolled down. Caleb was in the back seat. I hadn't seen him. He looked at me. His face was pale from the surgery recovery. He didn't smile. He didn't make a face. He just lifted his hand and waved. A small, shy wave. I stood on my balcony. I lifted my hand. I waved back. It wasn't a hug. It wasn't a party. It was a true 6 months have passed since the night I walked barefoot on the gravel. My life looks very different now. The first big change was the house. My mother sold her big house. She couldn't afford the mortgage without me, and she finally admitted it. She bought a small, 2-bedroom condo on the other side of town. It's small. It's cozy. And most importantly, she pays for it herself. She calls me once a week. We talk for 10 minutes. She tells me about her garden. I tell her about my work. We are building a relationship on the ground floor. It's tentative, like walking on ice, but the ice is getting thicker every day. Jenna and Mark are separated. It turns out, when the free money stopped, their marriage problems started. Mark didn't want to work extra shifts. Jenna did. She got a job as a receptionist at a dental office. She's working hard. She looks tired, but she looks proud. Caleb sends me drawings. I send him books. We are friends slowly. And me, I am Harper Elise Clean. I took a new job. It's in a different department with better pay. Danielle helped me negotiate the salary. Know your worth, she told me. I finally do. I joined a pottery class. Every Thursday night, instead of fixing my family's crises, I sit at a wheel and get my hands dirty with clay. I make bowls. I make mugs. They are imperfect. They are lopsided. But they are mine. I sleep without fear now. I used to sleep with my phone next to my pillow, terrified I would miss an emergency text. Mom's in the ER. Alex needs bail. Now my phone stays in the kitchen at night. I sleep in silence. I wake up rested. I didn't rush forgiveness. Forgiveness is a heavy word. I don't think I have fully forgiven them yet. The hurt is still there, like a scar that aches in the cold. But I have reached acceptance. I accept who they are. They are flawed people who got used to an easy life. I accept who I was. I was a woman who thought love was a transaction. I stopped the transaction. And surprisingly, a little bit of love remained. Last week I went to dinner at Mom's new condo. It was just me, Mom, and Jenna. We ate spaghetti. It was cheap. It was simple. This is good, Mom, I said. It's from a jar, she laughed. I'm too tired to cook sauce from scratch. It's perfect, I said, and it was, because nobody asked me to pay for the jar. I looked around the small table. We were broken, yes. We were glued back together with awkward pauses and careful words. But we were real. I drove home that night with the windows down. The air rushed in, cool and sweet. I thought about the 32 years I spent being the victim. I thought about the gravel cutting my feet. I didn't regret walking out. It was the hardest walk of my life, but it led me here. I pulled into my driveway. I walked up to my door. I unlocked it with my own key. I stepped inside my quiet, peaceful sanctuary. I am not a resource. I am not a scapegoat. I am not a bank. I am Harper. And for the first time in my life, I belong to myself.